A very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us on the Friday edition of the show. I'm Yemi Adeba. Well, tonight on the show, we'll be talking about the draws for the playoffs in the UEFA Champions League, the route to the round of 16. For so many of the big teams, we'll be talking about that on the show tonight. We will also be taking a look at what is happening on the domestic scene. Of course, talking about the Nigeria Premier Football League. What are the authorities doing with regards to the athletes? Of course, the chairman of the National Sports Commission has a few words to say about their plans and the things they hope to achieve with the athletes. That's the outlook of the show today. Of course, it's a two-man show. My colleague Austin Okona-Akman is ready as we go along on this ride.
But greetings to you, Yemi, and of course, everyone joining us on the show tonight. It's always an action-packed world of sports. And thank God it's Friday. I always look forward to Fridays because it takes us into a weekend of sporting action. And what a way to prep us for the weekend, the draw for the knockout phase of the UEFA Champions League and the Europa League. And Pep Guardiola got what he asked for. You know, remember we said it on the show when it was like, his team can play anything. And then the draw said, well, take Real Madrid. So that will really got us talking. We'll wait to see what will come out of that fixture. And of course, the Nigeria Premier Football League, I love what is going on. We've seen that it's so competitive. Remo starts showing us that they won the title. Rivers United's title got blurry after that 2-2 draw against Insurance. My darling Aqua United not keeping the promise. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about everything on the show tonight.
Sure, we'll do that. We're going to have a robust conversation around all of the things we've highlighted. But let me quickly introduce our guest in the Lagos studio with us. It's been a while, but he's back with us now. Tolu Atobatole joins us. Tolu, greetings to you. Thanks for finding time to be with us on the show.
It is always a pleasure, to talk sport anytime. Of course, we have a lot of activities to look at in the world of sport. But I often said, Remo Stars, wanting the MPFA. But I think, 3SC, of course, as they are going on a winning streak, of course, are really making a statement that, they want the Premier League more than any other club side in the MPFA. But let's see, of course, we'll go home with the trophy at the end of the season in the summer. But always, of course, looking ahead, to a very interesting, of course, a time out in the world of sports.
Yeah, interesting time in the world of sports, especially this weekend that seems to be loaded. All right, Austin, since you are the other end of the world, let me allow you to do the honors to also bring in our guest who's also at the far end. Let's have a robust conversation on all the things happening in the fast-paced, money-spinning world of sports.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long leg you're giving me to run with the relays. If I'm to take off from London in the United Kingdom to Canada, where Bolariwa Olajide is, then I don't think I'll make it if I'm to run. But let's welcome Bolariwa on the show. Bolariwa, good evening. Welcome to Sports Tonight. I don't know what time it is where you are, but I'm sure sporty greetings is enough.
As always, it's a pleasure to be live with you guys. It's not that a distance when you look at London to Toronto. Well, it depends on what part of Canada you're going to. But you are capable. If you are asked to run or walk, I'm sure you can definitely do it.
No, don't worry. I'll fly. I'll fly. Definitely, I'll get there. Bolariwa, good to have you on the show. And what a time to have you join us where the UEFA Champions League and the Europa League got us really talking. It's just a playoff draw. And we are seeing Manchester City versus Real Madrid. And I'm like, come on, what's going on?
Yeah, actually, I looked at the other fixtures and I saw they were, in a way, evenly balanced. You look at the two teams, you're like, okay, yeah, this team is capable of doing it. The other is also capable. But the standout fixture, I didn't see it coming. I didn't expect that the two sides who have met regularly in the last 3 seasons of the Champions League would meet in the round of 32. In a way, it's the round of 32 because of the new format. The first 8 teams are already through to the round of 16, and these teams have to play each other to also progress to the round of 16. So it's going to be an interesting match for sure. Even though these days Manchester City are not the team that we used to know, Real are always Real. They are there with the talent, with the quality, and they will be favorites. But on one side, another side of me is saying this match is becoming boring. We've seen them too many times over the years. Maybe it's time to see something different.
But Larry, you need to calm down. Real Madrid isn't the same Real Madrid. If they are Real Madrid, they won't be in the playoffs.
100%.
So, in what we're seeing now with this new format, I don't think the competition will ever be the same again, because there are teams you'd expect, not to be in this sort of situation. But here we are. Let's take a look at. I think the draw was a bit fair when you look at the pairings, except for Manchester City and Real Madrid. Let's look at some of the fixture that concerns us, particularly Atalanta. Will Club Brugge be a problem?
It shouldn't. They shouldn't. Atalanta are just coming back from winning the Europa League last season. They've been there competing as well with the top teams in the Serie A, like Napoli, Inter Milan, and even AC Milan. So it should be. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy game, but I don't see Club Brugge being a big threat for Atalanta when you look at the way they play, the quality they have, and of course with our own Ademola Lookman also leading the attack. So maybe it's balanced, but I think it's easy to predict for this one.
Okay, I will tell. Let's go to Lagos. I'm sure Yami will walk us through the other fixtures from the screen.
All right, let me do just that and bring Tolu into this conversation. I was listening to you guys. I'd like to get Tolu's take, but first I'll just walk across and talk about the fixtures. Interesting fixtures they are, and of course, just like Bolarinwa said, whether we want to call it that or not say it, it's still the round of 32, even though some teams are already into the round of 16. All right, well, surprise package, Brest, that would be up against this. We're talking about the knockout phase, where one of these two teams in a two-legged format will qualify. Brest will take on Paris Saint-Germain. Club Brugge will take on Atalanta. You guys already talked about that. Manchester City and Real Madrid, you've talked about that plenty. Juventus will take on PSV, Eindhoven. Monaco takes on Benfica. Sporting Lisbon takes on Borussia Dortmund. Celtic will take on Bayern Munich. Then Feyenoord will take on AC Milan. The first leg to be played around February 11th to 12th, while the second leg will be played a week later. And it appears to me like the heavy hitters will probably still move on. Some of them didn't, start off the way they should, and probably that's why they're here. And once they have the second opportunity, they will probably take it. But today I want to get your thoughts on these fixtures you're seeing. We like to talk about upsets on this show. Do you think we're going to see upsets now? Because you're looking at, apart from the City and Real Madrid situation, you are looking at teams where it looks like this one is a big team, this one not so big. So do you think we're going to see upsets, maybe the small teams in a two-legged playoff getting the better of the big ones?
It's not going to be a walkover for anything, because remember there is no away goal rule anymore. So you understand. So if you score 20 goals away, you must also win the game at home. You understand. So and now I think where we may have an upset is a Brest versus Paris Saint-Germain. You understand. So we can say Brest is the underdog. While PSG, of course, are the heavyweight. That of course may be there may be an upset there in the game against Brest and Paris Saint-Germain. But looking at the other fixture, Club Brugge versus Atlanta. Atlanta, of course, are just making a statement in the European football. You understand. So coming from winning the Europa League last season, of course, I wanted to do more, this season. But Club Brugge, of course, we should work. We should look out for our Club Brugge. What they did, the last time out. But unfortunately, they couldn't surpass, of course, the quarterfinal stage last season. But Juventus against PSV Eindhoven, it is two big heavyweights, because in their domestic leagues, they are heavyweights. PSV Eindhoven, are domestic heavyweights, of course, in the Dutch league, while Juventus as well, of course, is a heavyweight, in the Italian Serie A. But Manchester City, Real Madrid, Real Madrid, of course, has always have an edge over Manchester City in a couple of seasons ago. But I think for me, I still, focus, my time, my energy, of course, on a Brest against Paris Saint-Germain. That would be an upset of a game.
Okay. Of course, Tolu seems to feel that we might have an upset on the cards, Brest versus PSG. All right, let me just get Bolariwa's thoughts quickly before I yield back to Austin. Clubs, the managers, even the footballers have been complaining about fixture congestion, been screaming out loud. Can we have a way to reduce these matches? Is having a toll on the players. Then here we are, some of these big clubs having to play more matches. Do you think it will be a factor? Those ones who've gone straight into the round of 16 and these ones that have to play more matches when they eventually meet, will it be a factor in favor of those who didn't have to play this one?
Well, at the end of the day, it's going to be a factor because the more games you play, the more chances of you not being able to keep your players fresh. It's as simple as that. But in the end, is the price for not finishing, or maybe not the price for not finishing in the top 8. If you had finished in the top 8, you wouldn't have to worry about playing these matches in February. I mean, remember, the teams that finished in the top 8 will not be playing this month. They have to wait until next month when the games are completed for the playoffs. So managers can complain all they like. It's the new reality and they have to deal with it. I like to look at the positive side when it comes to more matches being played in the Champions League, Europa League, and even the Conference League. The clubs get to generate more money. The fans get to see more matches, top quality matches. Even content creators, they now have more matches to build content from. So as far as the football world is concerned, it's all about the business and the amount of money you can make. Everybody makes money. You play away, you play at home, it's revenue generation for all the teams. It used to be 6 matches in the group phase. These days they played 8. Now they have 2 more matches to play apart from the 8 that they played last time. So they just have to utilize the squad. The bigger teams may be able to survive, but in the end, we want to see more matches, we want to see more entertainment. And of course, like I said, it's all about the money these days when it comes to football.
All right, it's about the money. Also, let me just throw this one at you. I know you are eager to contribute. A lot of people have said, look, this format is to probably stop the big clubs from doing the Super League and all of that, more matches, the smaller teams, making them have a say. Do you think it will be enough?
I don't think it's a target at the bigger teams, because if you take a look at the teams that had automatic qualification, which team is small? Maybe Lille, maybe, but all of the big boys are still doing their thing. Real Madrid and Manchester City, they have themselves to blame. And if you check the guys who made it to the teams that made it to the playoff, you can really tell that they deserve to be there. Brest, for instance, played amazing football. I'm still, feeling bad for them that they couldn't even make, the automatic qualification. And then the draw punished them some more by giving them PSG. I'm like, what's all this, So I think at the end of the day, we talked about it. So what UEFA is trying to do is to try and tell everyone that, look, we have the control. We know how to make this Champions League interesting and engaging, and most importantly, make money. But just so Austin Bolariwa and Yemi don't come on TV and start saying that's all they want to do, they've given us this. And did it get us talking? Yes, it did. It really got us talking, because if you take a look at the former format, there is no way Manchester City will be in this situation. It will be difficult. They are likely going to top their group. Real Madrid will likely top their group or finish in second, But now it has given us the sort of football that we're hoping to see, to talk about the small teams, the big teams. For instance, Aston Villa. You get what I'm saying? Aston Villa made it, and people are wondering, how did they do it? But that will do a lot for the club, for their revenue, and of course the confidence of the players. Well, let me get Bolarewa talking. I said earlier that the pairings look good. The draw was a bit fair. But where are we likely to see an upset? I just mentioned Brest and what they did in the group phase. They will take on PSG. Sloppy, slimy, slippery PSG. But they had to do the work in that last game against Manchester City. And if you take a look at maybe Celtic Bayern Munich, where can we see an upset?
Honestly, Austin, it's difficult to tell, to be very, very honest with you. Apart from the standout fixture between City and Real, the other games are actually close to call. It's somehow evenly matched. Even, I was speaking to a friend this morning when the draws were made. Brest against PSG looked like a done deal on paper. We know what PSG does in the French Ligue 1. They dominate the league. They beat everybody, black and blue, blue and black. they just beat everybody. But it's a different Brest that we're seeing this season, and they haven't been exposed. They've been well structured, and they are very rounded. They tend to, bring on the heat when it matters most. So I'm not even surprised that they got a playoff spot when they could even have qualified automatically. So it's not going to be an easy game to call. And when you look at PSG as well, PSG, well, they're still doing well, but they are not as strong since Messi left and Mbappe left. The fear factor is no longer there. And for a two-legged playoff game where away goals no longer count, I think they stand a chance. So if you're talking about upset, I'll actually go for that game, even though it's hard to say. But if an upset will happen, I think Brest might be in to shock the world by beating PSG in the playoffs.
We'll see with your analysis.
It would be nice to have Brest still in the competition,
Yeah. With the football they play, they've shown that there are no small breasts, Yeah. So it's a good one. Let's go to Tolu. Tolu, what about you? Do you see any upset in any of the playoffs?
Yeah, of course. I am looking at Brest, Paris Saint-Germain. Of course, looking at what, of course, they played, during the preliminary, of course, distance. So because they really, are good, give a good account of themselves. They play good football, and of course, and taking that, into the playoff, they may cause a huge upset. And again, looking at Monaco, Benfica, in Celtic, Bayern Munich as well. Of course, it's a game we should expect to see upsets.
Okay, all right. We've talked about the games we probably expect upsets. Let's go to the Europa League now. Some will say we should stop saying it's a step down, but it is what it is. Let's talk about the Europa League and, of course, the knockout phase. Same format, different teams. Ferencváros will be up against Victoria Pleasant. FC20 will be up against Bodo Glimt. Union Style Julius up against Ajax. AZ Alkmaar up against Galatasaray. These are the matches in the knockout phase. FC Porto up against Roma. These are two teams that should be in, of course, the Champions League. Fenerbahce up against Anderlecht. PAOK Salonika against FCSB Steaua Bucharest. Midtjylland up against Real Sociedad. All right. And the good thing about Europa these days is that you're having some of these teams drop in to the Europa League, and it makes it interesting. So let me just quickly go to, maybe I'll just get a few seconds before I go to Austin from Tolu. Your expectations from this, is it the same way you see the knockout phase in the Champions League? Are you seeing this the same way, or you think this is clear-cut?
No, of course, this will be a clear call, for the heavyweights. But my fear is, of course, we might at the end of the day not see, of course, the heavyweights, in the quarterfinal, of course, and the semifinal, because Porto against Roma, they are two heavyweights.
You would have loved to see both of them.
Yes, both of them, advancing to the next round. And again, Fenerbahce and Anderlecht. That's of course I'm giving that to Fenerbahce because they're a good side. Looking at what Amorim, of course,
even before the ball is kicked.
Of course. And then PAOK FSB. PAOK should get an easy win over FCSB. Midtjylland, of course, and Real Sociedad. I'm giving it to Real Sociedad because they're also a good team. So there won't be much upset.
Looks pretty straightforward.
In the Europa, of course, a playoff.
All right, let me go to Austin quickly. Probably less than a minute before we go on a break. Tolu says that this one might be pretty clear-cut. Might not be difficult to stick out your neck like the one we just looked at.
I totally agree. And every year, the Europa League, proves us right that it's a league that anything can happen. You never say never. For instance, I was thinking Galatasaray was going to do something, in that game against Ajax and pick the automatic qualification. But it didn't happen. Ajax did, just enough to be in this position and still didn't get the automatic qualification. So I'm taking a look at, of course, everybody talk about FC Porto versus Roma because on a good day, that's a UEFA Champions League fixture. Maybe you would want to see what Real Sociedad can do, Galatasaray, and I think FCSB, we call them Still Bucharest, still, Austria Bucharest. I think they can create an upset. I see the way they're set up and the way they're playing with a bit of discipline and not respecting their opponents. So they are one team that can really get us talking. And of course, FC20. Let's go on a quick break now. Bolarinwa is still standing by to let us know his thoughts on the Europa League playoffs draw. When we come back, we'll get into that. And of course, Super Sunday in the English Premier League. It's Arsenal versus Manchester City. That will definitely get us talking. So don't go anywhere. Stay.
Bola.
Welcome back, Sports Tonight on Channels Television. The European League football gets our attention because the draw for the round of 16 and that of the Europa League have been done today, and opponents, have emerged, and that has got us talking. Bolarinwa Olajide is right there in Toronto, Canada, and it's not so cold for him to talk about the draw tonight. So, Bolarinwa, let's talk about the Europa League. That one is like this, where anything can happen. But if you have to pick 4 teams, what are the 4 teams that you think can, get us talking?
One thing about the Europa League is that most times one of the favorites end up winning it. I've not seen an underdog or somebody out of nowhere going all the way and winning it. The top teams are always there to win it. And this year we have some very good teams in the competition. So in answering your question, even though Manchester United haven't been doing so well in the league, but surprisingly, they are the only unbeaten team in the Europa League this season. They haven't lost a game. So I would definitely tip them. They were favorites at the start of the season, and they still remain favorites, even with the problems that they have. Change of manager, some players not living up to the billing. United will still be favorites going into the round of 16 fixtures. And also not forgetting Atalanta, who won it last year. I think they have a decent chance of going all the way again this year. They still have the core of the team still playing. They have a fantastic manager. They're playing good football, competing with the top teams in the Serie A. That's what catches my fancy the most. Napoli have been strong. Inter Milan have been strong. Then the next team you mentioned is Atalanta out of nowhere. So I'll give them a chance as well of winning it. And I'll also, in a way, if Tottenham, because they're English side, most English teams do well in Europe. Even West Ham somehow won the Conference League 2 seasons back, or was it last season? So I'll always give the English teams a chance of winning it. So Tottenham, they're injury ravished at the moment, but when they have their top players back, I think they have a good chance of winning the competition as well. I don't think they will win it, but they have a good chance of winning it in the end. So
let's go back to the playoffs on current form with their results that you've seen so far. FC Porto or Roma?
It's tough. Porto are struggling, not just in the Europa League, they're also struggling in the Primera Liga. Roma have also struggled all season long. I mean, they've had 2 managers this season. Now they have Claudio Ranieri. It's going to be tough. But if I'm going to be forced to pick a team who could qualify for the next phase, I'll go with AS Roma. Basically because of the expertise of Claudio Ranieri. But it's a tough game to predict, to be fair.
I totally agree. And I have to ask you that because they both struggled, in the first round of the competition. Yemi, that's about it. I think we should dive straight into the English Premier League. And what a weekend we have in front of us, Yemi.
Yes, you read my mind. So let's go straight to the English Premier League now and talk about the things that lie before us. So go across now. And interesting. Let's start with tomorrow, the things that will happen tomorrow. Nottingham Forest up against Brighton, Bournemouth up against Liverpool, Ipswich Town will take on Southampton. You have Newcastle United up against Fulham, Wolverhampton Wanderers will take on Aston Villa. And of course, let's go to Sunday. Brentford will take on Tottenham Hotspur. Manchester United will take on Crystal Palace. And the game everybody seems to be talking about, Arsenal taking on Manchester City. And on Monday, Chelsea will take on West Ham. So these are the fixtures to look. Before we start listening to the managers. I'm very sure everybody speak has to be Arsenal and Man City for different reasons. Both teams need that win. A draw does not help any of them in any way. For Manchester City, more for morale. For Arsenal to be seen as real contenders, they need to win that game. So, looking at your own crystal ball, what do you think will happen?
Yeah, firstly, let us look at Arsenal, because Arsenal, they play good football, but getting the ball, into the back of the net, has been the bane behind the problem
this season.
Exactly, this season, because you can't just play good football for 90 minutes without scoring a goal. Goals, of course, are the hallmark of the game. You understand? So they need to, they lack the cutting edge up front. You understand? So the point man there, they don't need a striker. They need a goal scorer. You understand? So a striker, of course, might throw away 50 scoring chances, but a goal scorer, will definitely put away
goal scorer.
5, begging scoring chances. And for Manchester City, I think they also need to come into the game, to let their fans know that they can still salvage something out of the season. You understand? So if Arsenal wins that game, it will definitely give them an edge going into the game against Liverpool. And should Arsenal lose that game, of course, that will be the end of the season for Arsenal, because Liverpool, of course, will try as much as possible to extend their lead over Arsenal.
All right. Okay, let me go to Bola and just get his thoughts now, because by the time we start listening to the managers, probably will not have much time. I want to get your thoughts. In any case, if there's any other game that tickles your fancy, you could talk about them. But I assume you might want to talk about Arsenal and Manchester City. Who do you think needs it more? Who is in a better state of mind among the two teams?
100% it has to be Arsenal. Arsenal have, how would I put it? Arsenal, for me, have been very consistent, even though at times I feel for them that they can't seem to win the Premier League after showing that consistency for 3-4 years now. So playing at home, they've shown how good they can be. They were able to beat Manchester City at the same home last season. Manchester City are not the City we used to know, even though they've gotten Kusanov, they've gotten Mamouche. But we know these players will need time to blend in. So it has to be Arsenal. Well, I'm not saying categorically that they're going to beat Manchester City, but I don't see them losing at home. They have way much to lose in that game than Manchester City. I mean, City players have come out to say, we're writing this season off, we won't be winning the league, we just want to concentrate on playing in the qualifying for the Champions League and doing well in other competitions. So it just gives Arsenal the advantage in all areas: goalkeeping, defense, midfield, attack. Even for the coaches, the team in the better state to go into a match of this magnitude has got to be Arsenal, and I don't see them losing that game on Sunday.
Well, it's going to be a very difficult one for them, Bolarinwa, because this talks about getting a striker is already a distraction. But on current form, I totally agree with you. Out of their last 5 matches, the Gunners, they've won 4 and they've drawn just 1. City only, I think, 3 wins, a draw, and a loss. But you know City, and when they start their resurgence, when that football gets into their head and they start playing their pressing game, they can beat any team. But Mikel Arteta has been in the media all day saying that now more than ever he knows they need a striker, and I'm like, really? You have to wait till this time to know that you need a striker? And look, that's the difference. If you take the EFL Cup defeat to Newcastle, if you take the 2-2 draw with Aston Villa, what was missing to kill that game for the Gunners was a good striker. You just need a striker and you get the job done. So he knows that now, but let's see what they're going to give us on Sunday. An important game also is Leicester City taking on Everton. The good thing is they both won their last games, particularly for Leicester City. Beating Tottenham at White Hart Lane was good for Ruud van Nistelrooy and his team. They've got a Super Eagles player in that team, Wilfred Ndidi. He's been missing for about a month now, and the coach has been given an update on his injury. Let's listen.
Wilfred Ndidi is making good progress. He's partially involved in team training. This week, we're looking to bring him back in full team training over the course of next week. Mats was part of team training this week. So he's making good progress. In that sense, we're stable. Good, rightly so, because the result is one, but the next week starts, and we're starting to prepare ourselves again to the max. So we're training always in that way. Of course, 3 points away from home is big.
It's not just big, Ruud, it's massive, and I'm sure it brought you huge relief, because if Leicester City had lost that game, they would have been, down there in the relegation zone. But that win elevated Leicester to 17th on the log. Everton, they are 18th, so that's a very important game. And Yemi, it feels so good when you look at a Premier League team saying we've struggled because a Nigerian was missing.
It feels good. It underlines his importance to that team. And I hope when he returns, he will take his game to another level. He has always played well for Leicester. He's the engine room of that team. And I hope that continues. You talked about Mikel Arteta, and I'm very sure a lot of our viewers will want to listen. And the part that got me laughing was the part about you waiting to the last day or a few days to the end of to realize. And all the while, he's been sounding cocky. They've asked him. He's tried to play it down. And now he appears, even with all the money they seem to be trying to throw around, it's not going to work. I'm very sure the fans would love to hear his explanation. Let's listen to Mikel Arteta speaking about the situation. We'll come back for more.
Yes, that's Arsenal's manager, Mikel Arteta. But I'm sorry, Mikel, you left it so late. Stop living in Pep's shadow. No team will win the Premier League title without a striker. When Pep did it with City, they were playing a serious pressing game and they had all their players on good form. Bolariwa, there's no way I'll let you leave without talking about your precious Manchester United. They take on the Crystal Palace. Mm-hmm. That's a lukewarm team. You know it. They win this week, they struggle next week. You think they can do it at Selhurst Park?
This time is at Old Trafford, actually.
Old Trafford,
So I would fancy them to be. But these days, you can't really predict for Manchester United. The positive for them going into this game is that they've now played 2 matches without conceding and winning. Very important that they won last time against Fulham and, of course, against Bucharest in the Europa League as well. Big win for them. But if they could struggle against Newcastle, Wolves, decent teams, then they might be set to struggle again against another decent team in Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are a very compact side. They have a good goalkeeper. On their day, they can cause problems to even the best teams in England. They can cause problems for Arsenal, Manchester City, and even Liverpool. So I don't think it's going to be a straightforward game for United, especially at Old Trafford and the games they've lost. But with their recent form, they seem to be, coming together again. And I noticed as well that they've been struggling to score goals. They can't afford to do that against Crystal Palace at Old Trafford. It's going to be an interesting game. But for the first time in a long time, I do not expect United to lose this one. It may just be a United win or probably a draw, which I think they'll be happy to take.
The good thing is I haven't lost your number, and we'll do it on social media too. Stranger things have happened. So when that game is played, we'll talk about it.
No worries.
Thank you so much, Bolariwa Olajide, for your time on the show tonight. Always a pleasure.
Big time pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, that's it with the English Premier League. Let's get into the Nigeria Premier Football League. And I'm sure by the time you get to the screen, viewers will understand why this league is tagged one of the most competitive leagues in the world. And I'm sure, Tolu, you would 100% agree with me that this season, we will definitely see some competition as the league winds down.
Of course, definitely, we have even, we are beginning to see serious competitions, of course, in the MPFL. Sunshine Stars against Remo Stars. Of course, Remo Stars, are running away, with points, while they are being trailed by, Rivers United, and of course, Shooting Stars, of course, on a winning streak. Wow, it's been quite a long while. I saw Shooting Stars, winning games, of course, over and over again. But this time around, they have a huge turnaround. The players, of course, are focusing on the MPFL. This, of course, I think a couple of weeks ago, they said their target, of course, is overtaking Remo Stars and cutting hope, the most biggest trophy, of course, in Nigeria as far as the MPFL is concerned. But we wait to see, what happens at the end of the day for
All
them.
right, that's what we're doing. So you have to wait. You have to wait. Talk is cheap. I'll go across now, and of course the screen is available. We look at it, and we're going to get to Olu's thoughts on all of these things we're going to be talking about. There on Saturday, that's tomorrow, the Akure Gunners, Sunshine Stars of Akure, will be up against Remo Stars, the proper Southwest derby. And of course, what you do away goes a long way in determining whether or not you end up being champions. And trust me, Remo have picked up some good results away. Kano Pillars will up against Bayelsa United. That's going to be on Sunday. Abia Warriors up against Aqua United. Lobby Stars will take on the Aba Elephants. That's Eyimba. You have Heartland taking on Rivers United. Nasarawa United will take on Shooting Stars. That's another interesting game. I would love to see how Shooting Stars react. They've also picked some good wins away. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in that one. Of course, Rangers International up against the Oga Boys Ikorodu City. Benel Insurance up against Casina United. Kwara United will take on El Kanami. Tolu, I want to get your thoughts. I know you started by talking about Sunshine, Remo. I've heard that. What other games tickle your fancy?
Wow, I think I'll go for Rangers International versus Ikorodu City. Ikorodu City, they are gradually becoming a giant killers. Of course, we saw what they did to I think Eyimba or Kano Pillars, of course. And, because the Rangers International, they just need, to get back to their old self. They are one of the biggest, of course, a football club, in Nigeria.
Sure.
And of recent, they have not been dishing out a good football. Some of their fans, of course, are really not happy with the way, things, of course, are going on in the Rangers International camp. But, looking at Ikorodu City, is one club, that really want to change, how things, of course, is done in Nigeria. With a lot of input, from the management of the club. And as far as, football-wise, the boys, of course, are living up to expectations. But quite pitiful that, we don't get to see, too many fans, at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena, and when Ikorodu City, is playing, they are living up, of course, the excitement, of course, as far as football is concerned. And again, Beden Insurance and Casina United. Beden Insurance, of course, another club side, that are gradually, bringing back the past glory, of old Beden Insurance. And Kwara United versus Ekanemi Warriors, played at the final of FA Cup last season. And this season, they are also, of course, making a statement that, they want to go a step higher than what they achieved last season in the NPFL. Kano Pillars, Bayelsa United. Wow. Say Mesugida, as they are called, they have a Super Eagles captain, of course, in their rank, Ahmed Musa. And Ahmed Musa, of course, is trying his best, to make sure Kano Pillars rank among the best and go back to where, they belong, in the top echelon of Nigerian football. And Heartland Rivers United. Heartlands are Heartland, the former Nigerian international, of course, is the coach of Heartland, Emmanuel Amunike. I don't see Heartland, of course, making anything good, of course, as far as football is concerned, MPFL is concerned, because they are really not getting it right. Something is missing for Heartland. We know the quality they possess in the past, but I still believe, if things are put in order in the camp of Heartland, of course, yes, they can get back to where they belong.
All right.
But for Rivers United, they are also doing well. But for me, Shooting Stars, of course, I still, doff my heart for them, for being on a winning streak, this past couple of weeks.
Yes. I remember last season we were saying that if we determine the league winner just by the second stanza alone, they probably would be champions. I think it was last season that we're having that conversation. All right, Austin, it's over to you. We're pressed for time. We'll probably want to listen to what the chairman of the NSC is saying as well. But I'm sure these matches that we're having on screen will get you talking. And of course, you have to thumb up Shooting Stars for what they've been doing. They've been so enterprising these days. But this set of matches will be a true test.
Yeah, definitely. Shooting Stars, with the way they are playing, the understanding they are getting as a team, the sort of results they're turning out, they can fancy, a win against Nasarawa United, because Nasarawa United, they seem to be disjointed. I talked about them last night. Nasarawa United, Aqua United, Bendel Insurance, and Lobby Stars. So Shooting Stars can say, we've gone to difficult places. We've been to Enugu and we got all 3 points. So we can do the same in Lafia. So let's see what that will give us. But an important fixture is that of Remo Stars and Sunshine Stars. I say it's important because if Remo Stars wins that game, don't forget, Sunshine Stars' last game against Ikorodu, their home game, was played at Remo Stars ground. So if that game will be played in Ikene, the Remo Stars is playing at home. And so, easy peasy, you want to give it to them. That's a Southwest derby. I'm waiting to see what will come out of that game. Heartland versus Rivers United. I saw the Nazi Millionaires fight against Eimba. If Rivers United lose this game against Heartland, then their chase for the league title will become a long thing, because if Remo Stars beat Sunshine Stars, that gap will widen again. So I do not know how Rivers United will do everything they can to win in Owerri. The last game for me that will definitely get us talking is that Ikorodu City and Rangers game. Rangers, if they lose that game, Yemi and Tolu, it will be 3 consecutive defeats. And I don't think the Flying Antelopes will want that. They lost at home to Niger Tornadoes. They went to Maiduguri. They lost to El Kanemi Warriors. Now Ikorodu City will be coming to the Cathedral. They won't want a defeat. They won't be able to explain it. Let's get on with the show. Listen to the chairman of the National Sports Commission talking about the newly inaugurated Elite Athletes and Podium Board. What is that all about? Listen.
You know, we have a lot of grassroots plan, including the school sports, that we are working with the Federal Ministry of Education to bring back. If you do that process, what are they supposed to do to get the best talent who can now be elevated to the elite status? And then now there is a dedicated committee who will now look after them, look after their training, look after their progression. Is it domestic they can progress, or take them abroad, or and also keep working with them and keep supporting them. Make sure all their issues are sorted and they're just focusing on the development. And also the actual elite athletes that we have, that are already our elite athletes competing for us, also need to get their training grants, their own preparations and everything. That committee is supposed to be the board, supposed to be the interface of doing that, even determine how much the grants will be, the kind of training will be. So it's quite a very critical committee board for us that will be trying to prepare our elite athletes towards getting them to be ready to compete for the podium finishes at the appropriate time. We have the preparations for the Commonwealth Games. We have money for the school sports and Luga Games. We have funding for the talent identification and the grassroots sports development. So all this has been already put in the budget as government first step. The next step is we have to bring in the private sector also to complement whatever government is doing.
That's the chairman of National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko, explaining the objective of the Elite Athletes and Podium Board. Discover elite athletes and then see ways that we can take them to the podium. I'm sure Yemi next week will come back and break that down properly. That's the show in London. I'm Austin Okonakpan. In everything you do, remember to keep talking sports. Bye for now.
It's right up here in Lagos as well, but before we go, I want to thank Tolu Atobatele for his time on the show. Hopefully we'll do this again some other time.
Of course, it's always a pleasure.
All right. That's the show today. We thank you for allowing us into your homes without knocking on the door. It is a privilege we will never take for granted. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you again next week. I'm Yemi Adebayo. Bye-bye now.